All right, everybody, welcome back. You are listening to 한국어천재, and we are here to help you have conversations about food and dining culture here in Korea. I'm sure you all are curious as to how to do this, so stick around every Monday for Food Talk with Chef Matthew Chung. And Matthew is in the studio with me right now. Hey, buddy.
Hello, hello, hello.
How are you doing?
Doing well.
Yeah.
Doing well.
We kind of have been doing this thing where we break down our segments into multiple weeks because we just have so much to talk about with everybody. I feel like they're probably like, last week, what were we talking about again? I feel like we just need to kind of review for everyone we've been doing.
Right. So we've been doing a kind of multi-episode, was a journey, let's call it, on doing Korean food while you're abroad.
Exactly. That was kind of, and as he said, it's been a journey because we are now on week 3 here, and we finally got to the part that I feel everyone's ready for because there's so many times you want to make Korean food, whether it's for your family, whether it's for like a hot date you got here. Do you have like a date food you're kind of particular to?
So we actually had a date night the other night with my wife. And it's something that you don't eat a lot of in Korea. And I think it's a real shame because it's so good.
What is it?
Duck.
Like, you're not talking about duck. You're talking about duck as in like
a quacker.
Yeah,
like
like the quacker. That is how ducks will be referred to from now on. They are no longer ducks. They are quackers.
Like a crispy quacker, right? So, no, it's so great because we've been on this kind of like duck kick lately. So we order one duck a week, basically. And they're super affordable. So they're anywhere between like 8,000 to 10,000 won.
Yeah.
And we get 3 meals out of one duck.
Wow. That's like wait, are you talking 3 meals as in like 3 dinners? Or are you talking like breakfast food, lunch, and dinner? You got a breakfast
you
meal?
You could have it for breakfast because, so here's what we do, right?
Okay.
So what we did this past week. So we took the breasts and the legs off. We cooked those. And then we took the body and then we made a broth out of it. Ooh. And then we made a duck pho, like a Vietnamese noodle out of that.
Oh, that sounds really good. I will say I don't see duck a lot here as much.
There's a lot of duck is eaten. You'll generally tend to see it outside of the city. Did I just hear a quack? Is that like the ghost of the duck haunting?
He's just coming down. He's like flapping down your, I hunt you.
Right. Yeah, and then so like you get it mostly outside the city. There are some places in the city that serve it, but it's a little bit more rare. If you see it in the city, most sometimes it's smoked and it tastes just like ham when you have it that way.
That sounds
But
good.
you see 오리 백숙.
오리 백숙, like kind of 닭백숙, but it's with 오리 고기
Exactly.
instead. Oh, so for our listeners who don't know what 닭백숙 is, because a lot of people get 닭백숙 and like samgyetang mixed up a lot.
Sure.
And I feel like what would be the basic difference you could say between those two?
So samgyetang is basically always that exact configuration of ingredients, right? So it has a chapsar stuffed inside.
Yeah.
It has the insam, it has the techu, the dried jujube in there. And that is like a specific samgyetang.
Yeah.
Whereas 닭백숙, it's a little bit more of a looser term.
Yeah.
It basically refers to kind of like a steamed or boiled chicken served in its own broth.
So there's a little bit more flexibility, you could say, with the recipes there. But like, I would say trying it with duck meat, though, that sounds like that would have a whole new sense of richness. And
it's so
flavor.
it's almost closer to like a sagoryuksu, like a beef bone broth, rather than like a chicken broth, just because duck is practically a red meat.
Yeah. I mean, it's got a lot of flavor into it. Deep Scarlet here says fried duck with some yellow colored seasonings. Yum. Ooh, that does sound good. I will say, when I went to China, I got to have a Beijing duck for the first time as well. That was just a magical moment for me. I didn't know that duck could taste like this. Because I was normally not team duck. I was kind of like a little hesitant about it. I would think about all the ducks on the pond that I grew up with and just eating them. But it really is got some rich flavors into it. So I feel like that kind of segues into our next part here because we're talking about the meats and things like that. And that was the one part we were not able to cover last time.
Yes. And so I think with the meat, it makes it a lot easier, but there are some tricky things to keep in mind when doing Korean style meat abroad.
Yes. What would those be? Yeah.
The main thing being the bui, the different parts of the beef. And this is something that I need to refer to a book. Sometimes we literally have a book. It's called like 고기 수첩. It's like it's a
like a dictionary.
It's a dictionary of different cuts.
I have my normal dictionary and my meat dictionary.
Yes. And I use my meat dictionary a lot more than my word dictionary.
Because like in Korea, there are so many different like cuts of something here.
Now, the Korean cow doesn't have more body parts than any other cow. It's just that we break them down into smaller parts. And so let's put this into perspective, right? So the U.S. has about 22 different types of like cuts that they sell in your average supermarket.
Yeah.
France has about 35.
Okay, a little more there. Yeah, 22, 35, keeping this in perspective. What about Korea?
So in Korea, what's commonly served is 50.
Pardon?
50.
Okay.
But if you're going into like everything that's completely available, when you break down a cow, 120.
Hence the dictionary.
Yes.
What? I'm sorry. Did you say 120 different cuts?
120 different cuts.
여러분, 한국에는 우리 이렇게 120개의 부위는 있다고 말씀하셨어요, 방금은. I cannot literally imagine 100 different 20 cuts on it. What will you break it down to? Left ear and right ear? Like
practically. I mean, I think that's the thing, right? Like, so like let's take a cut that's really common in the US, right?
Yeah.
Chuck.
Oh yeah, ground chuck or something.
Yeah, ground
like
chuck. If you look on the cow, the chuck is enormous.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah, and so in Korea, that's broken down into so many different smaller cuts. Some are used for 국거리, so some are used for boiling in soups because they're a little bit tougher, but they'll get tender once you cook them down. Some you slice them and then you serve it as 고기, as 구이. So
just
you
like
grilled it
out, yeah.
Now, and the thing is that when you imagine like a grilling cut in Western cuisine, it's generally going to be something that's tender.
Yeah, very much.
But here in Korea is that we do like some of the tougher cuts because they get sliced thin.
Yes.
And then they get a great texture to them. I think the best example of this is we have two of them, right? I think you have chadol.
차돌박이, I love it. It's my favorite.
Yes. It's the fatty part of the brisket.
Yeah.
And normally in other cuisines, they'll cook that for hours and hours until that fat just melts and it turns into this delicious, tender, almost falling apart piece of meat.
Buttery.
Right. But here in Korea, it's a tough cut of meat, so we slice it razor thin. It looks like bacon.
Oh, yeah. No, I honestly thought we were cooking bacon for the longest time. I would go to restaurants and we get 차돌박이 and we'd be like, or do we just have kind of... I often thought actually it was kind of, what do I want to say? Like somebody just took basically American-style bacon and was throwing it in a soup and calling it bacon soup.
Well, that's basically what it is. It's cow belly. You know, if bacon, if American style bacon is pork belly, this is cow belly. It comes from a very similar part. As a matter of fact, you can do the same thing with lamb. They'll call it lamb breast. But lamb belly breast is also delicious for the same reason. It's got that great fat in it. Slice it thin, or you braise it for a long period of time.
Oh, that sounds so good. You're making me so hungry now. I haven't eaten yet today, and I'm so hungry.
Let me ask you about this one. What do you think about tongue? 우설.
Okay, so I grew up on a farm. My grandmother had often had cow parts in the refrigerator, and every now and then they would be snuck into my food.
Sure.
Wasn't the biggest fan of them, but I am always willing to give it another chance.
You should try it Korean style. If you're not the biggest fan, if you slice it again razor thin and you grill it, because the tongue has no fat in there, right? It is this really unique and this fantastic texture to it. Because when you imagine a cut of meat with no fat, you imagine it be very dry, but it's not.
It's like really rich and like
it's
oily?
Rich. I wouldn't even call it oily, but it has a bit of a snap to it. Have you ever had chicken hearts before?
No, can't say I've ever explored that area. No.
I don't think I can compare it to anything that sounds any more appetizing. However, you got to trust me on this one. It has like a great, almost kind of like a snap to it, kind of the way like a good hot dog or sausage does. It has a snap.
Okay, I'm gonna trust.
I'm gonna stop describing it. Just try it. Try it.
People here can't see my face, everybody, but it's kind of. I don't necessarily believe Matt right now, but I'm gonna have to go out on a limb and trust him.
Please.
But there is a point to be made about these cuts in Korea that some are definitely, in terms price-wise, a little bit more on the expensive side.
Right, like the tongue
is
one of them.
And I would say, what about in terms of like pork? We're talking about beef right now. Pork also has a lot of of different cuts that I struggled to describe. Like one of them, when I would go to a restaurant, was the 한정살 and 목살.
Right.
But in the U.S., we I guess we have terminologies for it, but we don't really often think of breaking them down this
and
way.
It's a real shame because those are two great cuts.
Yeah.
So 한정살 is the jowl.
Yep, those right here.
I'm starting to develop them as I go into my late 30s. I'm starting to develop
Not
that.
Not at all.
And then 목살 is just like you'd imagine what it is. It is the neck meat.
Yeah.
It is pork neck. And you can find these in the United States and other countries. You'll find that pork neck is eaten a lot more in other parts of Asia and then also certain parts of Europe as well. I find that when I'm in Spain, I tend to find the most variety of cuts that reflect what we have in Korea.
In Spain?
In Spain, yeah. They really like their pork out there.
We've got a lot of comments here about your chicken heart. Laureen Lay and Deep Scarlet. We have Laureen Lay giving hearts to the chicken heart, whereas Deep Scarlet says, chicken hearts? I don't eat that, but I eat chicken gizzards.
Right.
We do have gizzards here as well.
In Korea, it's called 모래집. 모래집. And it's called that. It's like the sand house because that's the part of the chicken that essentially collects all the grit as it pecks on the ground.
Yeah.
Right. And I love chicken gizzards. They're delicious.
Our PD also likes chicken gizzards. He has called me out on this before. He's like, Kayla, do you eat chicken gizzards? And I'm like, no, I do not. I avoid that.
Of course he likes chicken gizzards. He's an ajashi. All ajashis like me like chicken gizzards.
He just head desked right now. The Lost Angel says, I don't like eating hearts. Gizzards are okay, but hearts are too soft.
I mean, I wouldn't describe them as soft, but they're certainly softer than the gizzard. And if you like that texture of the gizzard, I can see why you'd be team gizzard and not team heart.
True.
I like them both.
And Huang Hugs here says, we eat chicken intestines, then grill it. I will say intestines is something that I got on board here.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the States. We often call it tripe, I think.
Right. So tripe is an interesting term. Sometimes it refers to the stomach. Sometimes it refers to intestines.
Yeah.
It depends on how it's being treated. It's a very imprecise word. But in the United States, I don't think I would eat, intestines
as much.
They're just not as commonly, processed?
Prepared.
Right. Like I'm just iffier on the freshness of them. Like anything else, like when I choose a restaurant, I want it to be busy. I want there to be a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
And if they're not selling a lot of intestines, I'm not sure if I'm going to go for it.
Try that.
But here, twice a week, if I could.
소고기 곱창은 되게 맛있는데 저 돼지 곱창 별로 안 좋아해요. I don't like the what do I want to call it? The smell and the texture of the 돼지 곱창. Yeah, but the beef ones, so good. And then finally, the Lost Angel says chicken skin are delicious but sinful. Yes. I feel like a lot of different skins. I love pork skins. Mm-hmm. Oh, I love pork rinds. They are so good. There's like a couple of restaurants where you can like grill them out, right? They're not even fried, just grilled.
Right.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, 돼지 껍질 or 껍데기.
Yes, 껍데기. I love the 껍데기. There's one near my house. I am there a lot, like at least 3 times a month. I'm over there eating my pork skins. But we have so many things else to cover here because there's a lot of different ways you can use these meats, different recipes you got for them. And like, what would you say is the most common kind of things you would see these meats used for to make?
So I think the most common one, the one that we like the most here in Korea, is just 고기구이. Just roasted, grilled meats.
Oh,
and
it's so good.
The best part about this is that you don't have to have specifically Korean meat to do this. You can do it with meat from any country, and they all have the same parts. You just have to have all the little accompaniments.
Yes.
Don't worry if you don't have a grill at home. You can do it in a pan. Plenty of people do. I do it at home. I live in an apartment. We don't have a charcoal or gas grill. We just do it in a hot, smoking, dry pan.
There you go,
everybody.
everybody. No oils in there. Just put that pan up there. Get it as hot as you can get it.
Open up all the windows. No, I'm not kidding you. Open up all the windows.
Really? Is it going to smoke a little bit?
Oh, it's going to smoke a lot of it.
But it's going to taste really good. But as you said, it's really important, I feel, to get that best, like, 구이 is not even about the meat itself. It's about the things that you come with it.
It's the accoutrement.
Yeah, the accoutrement. Yeah, there. Those, and it's not even like necessarily banchan itself, because, you know, we have side dishes that you can prepare. But some of these are just simple things that don't really need much preparation.
Sure,
You
just condiments,
yeah,
sauces.
condiments.
I think when you're doing a very common one is just salt and pepper.
Yes.
Because here in Korea, we don't season the meat before it goes on the grill.
Nope. Here, no doing that there. If you put it on there, you're just ruining the taste.
Right. So there there's just salt and pepper. And then if you want to take it a step further, you can do sesame oil, salt and pepper, 참기름.
We talked about that 참기름. You guys know how important 참기름 is. Don't forget that one.
And if you think about it, like how just decadent is it that you're dipping fatty meat into more fat? I mean, like that's so over the top and delicious.
The richness in that there. But there are other things as well. I'd say, like, for me, the biggest one I often think of are the vegetables that go in there.
Sam.
Oh, I love having a good sam with, and then if you got we were talking about the changs. If you guys remember the changs from last time, you take some sam, and then you got the samjang as well, and then you put maybe some little, what do I want to say, like onions or something.
Onion, you can do raw garlic, sliced thin. You can do 청양고추 or any type of spicy pepper. So I think this is a part. This is a place where our listeners can really experiment with what they have locally. So say if you want to do samgyeopsal night, right?
Yeah.
So you go and get your pork belly. If you have a butcher, ask him to slice it. Maybe about I want to say about 3 millimeters thick.
Okay.
Not so thin, not like American style bacon, because that's not going to give you that chew, but not so thick that it's going to get tough on you.
Yeah.
So you really want to ask him to slice it, and if not, here's a pro tip at home: sharpen your knife, toss that pork belly into the freezer for about 20 minutes because it's going to firm up and be a lot easier to slice thin.
That's interesting. So you just. It's not going to affect the taste at all if you put it in.
No, you're not freezing it solid. You're just getting it a little bit firm.
So you can just slice it a little bit better.
So it's just not like, just moving all around on you.
Oh, everyone, good tip right there. Good tip. Thank you. So we've got those, and you've got your meat. Then what would you say is the best sort of things to kind of prepare maybe in their hometowns? What are some things that they can go with it?
Right. So if you want to put together a sam arrangement in your country, go with a variety of greens. So basically different types of lettuces. They just need to be big enough to be able to wrap whatever you're eating.
Okay.
Right.
So you're just making a lettuce wrap
right.
there.
Lettuce wraps, and then incorporate some herbs. So here in Korea, probably the most common fragrant herb we eat with gogi would be 깻잎.
I don't like the 깻잎. No.
So in Korea, what is it? There's a term, 초딩 입맛.
Oh, am I a 초딩?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, so she has the taste buds of a child.
Yes, I will say the reason I don't like 깻잎 as much is because I go for team 명이나물. I am all on the 명이나물 team. 명이나물.
Are you fancy?
Because I've been to Ulungdo. I had the proper 명이나물 here. Like, I go classy. The 깻잎 is my low class friends.
명이나물 is good though.
What would you say that? And Lost Angel here says, can we use spinach?
I wouldn't. You could use spinach. It's the issue with spinach, and this is something to keep in mind, is that when you choose your lettuces, you want them to be crisp.
Yes.
Spinach is very tender when it's a baby, and then when it's fully grown, it's a little bit tough. I think what you want is crispness.
Yes.
Right.
I would agree.
Yeah. I think. The herbs, so like things like 깻잎 are that's not on the crisp side, but it has the kind of fragrance to back it up. There's actually our friends in below the equator.
Yeah.
Cilantro.
I
there's
love gosu.
there's a gogi chip that we love that serves cilantro with their in their kind of sam arrangement.
Yeah.
And we always ask for extra. It's so good.
한국 사람들 보통 고수 별로 안 좋아하죠. I feel like most people, I'm looking at my PD right now, I feel like most Koreans don't usually like gosu. He's saying I love it though.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm all on team gosu here.
It's come back. So there are regions in Korea where they eat a lot of gosu. They even make things like gosu 장아찌, which is like a pickle. When you pickle it in soy sauce, the roots are fantastic when you pickle them.
I love it. You guys, I could put gosu on everything. You could give me gosu ice cream and I'd be okay with it there. But like for me, I'd say, the most important thing is that crispness, that crunch you want with your sam, with that. And then if you don't have 깻잎, which I think is perilla leaf. We would call it perilla leaf. You can try other sorts of kind of different spring vegetables that you have in your country. I know we were talking about 명이나물 and you were saying in the States we have something kind of similar?
Very similar. As a matter of fact, this season just ended, unfortunately. It's a hyper-seasonal ingredient. They're known as ramps.
Ramps.
Yeah,
I've never heard of it before. Everyone, new terminology and it's English.
Right. And it's one of those things, if you don't live in the regions where ramps grow, you probably haven't had them. Again, the season is super short. And what it essentially is, it's a wild form of allium. So like the garlic family.
Yes.
Right. And so it has this really nice, it's pungent, it's a very strong garlic flavor, but it's not sharp.
And so it doesn't like kind of clash with anything too
Right,
badly,
right. Like it doesn't burn your nose. Let's put it that way. Right.
Well, that's a blessing there. That's the last thing I want is a wasabi-like burn in my nose.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's so many things we really could cover to put in there. If you had to give the best thing, like the one last thing you definitely need with your samgyeopsal, what would you say it is?
Okay, so we've covered the meat, we've covered the dipping sauces, and we covered the sam.
Yeah.
I think after this point, we're broadening the table, and we're looking at other banchan and smooth segue. Things like namur.
Namul, yep. We were talking about this namul here, and just because there are so many different types of namul, I'd say that the best thing we can classify it as is spring vegetables.
Right. Spring vegetables. Not spring and not always vegetables.
Exactly.
But generally spring vegetables.
But generally spring vegetables. So if you guys have anything in your home country that you consider a spring vegetable, kind of like a something that you would count as like a freshness to bring to the table, consider using that with your meats there. It definitely might pair pretty well. But we always run out of so much time. This happens every week, Matt, but I'm so glad that you came here and really covered that meat thing. I feel like everyone was kind of waiting on that one there.
And so I hope that our listeners abroad, it's demystified this a little bit, and I really encourage you to try it at home. Use what you have, and really, you might be able to create something completely new. And you know what? If it's good, bring it to Korea.
For sure. And thank you guys so much for tuning in today to 한국어천재.